Hello and welcome to Football League World TV. My name is Ned Holmes and I'm joined by my colleagues Chris Thorpe and Billy Mulley to go through the best of the EFL's weekend action. How are you doing this afternoon, chaps?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, all good, Ned. Sorted out my connectivity issues now.
Brilliant. Well, we survived some early morning technical difficulties and we're going to, as I said, break down all the best of the EFL action from the weekend. Please remember to like and subscribe Football League World TV on YouTube, retweet us on Twitter and share on Facebook. So we're going to start with the East Midlands derby. So yeah, it was a sort of Derby County 1, Nottingham Forest 1. A late Brennan Johnson equaliser ensured that the Brian Clough Trophy stayed with the Reds after Tom Lawrence's impressive opener. Perhaps it was to be expected it was going to be a 1-1 draw given the last four in this fixture with that scoreline. But what did you make of it, Chris? Was it a fair result? I mean, we had a couple moments of real controversy. The Forsyth stamp, the Worrell handball. Did they even out a bit?
Yeah, I would say they evened out a bit. Just starting with the stamp, I think, he was sort of coming down from a header. I don't think he necessarily meant it. But obviously some players do have that sort of fiery streak and, win a derby game like that, you like to get in a little blow on your opponent if you can. And then the penalty incident, it was stonewall for me. It's just hit his arm, and if VAR was in the Championship, he would have been done bang to rights for that. So, yeah, I suppose it evened itself out in the end. And with the game on the whole, it was just a cagey affair as you would have expected. Two teams sort of going out there knowing that they just didn't want to lose it rather than going for the win. So, yeah, probably a fair result in the end, but I'm not sure either side will be too happy because they obviously would have wanted to get the 3 points.
Sure. And Billy, it was an amazing time for Brennan Johnson to sort of bag his first goal for Forest. We saw exactly what he could offer last season at Lincoln. Do you think that's a goal that might have saved Chris Hughton's job?
Yeah, I think going into this international break, I think going in with 0 points would have been catastrophic. I know 1 point's not much better, but at the same time, it gives them something to build on now. And I think it's also difficult to say that would have been the end of his time because the transfer deadline day is yet to come. And I think once you actually have your squad assembled for the season, that's when you can start being judged as a manager. Chris Hughton's proved to be a brilliant Championship manager in the past, and I think it's just a tough start at the moment. I'm sure he'll sort of bounce back and start getting the results that Forest deserve. Sure.
And do you think, that there's some positives for Forest to take really with some of the sort of late substitutions by Hughton? I guess he showed a bit more positivity than we've seen from him at the past, Billy.
Yeah, definitely. I think as the game progressed, it only looked like Forest were going to win. Derby deservedly took the lead, and I think the goal came at a good time for Nottingham Forest. And if there was 5 minutes added on to the end, I can't see anything other than a Forest win. So perhaps going into the international break, it's not the best time for it to come after a late equaliser like that, sort of lifting the spirits up a tiny bit. But at the same time, Hughton now has until tomorrow to bring in targets he's been working on and the international break to fully integrate his side into his way of football.
Brilliant. Well, that's everything we've got in the East Midlands derby, but we'll move sort of south and west then to the Seven-side derby. So it was Bristol City, it was Cardiff City 1, Bristol City 2 in the Welsh capital as an Andy Vyman brace helped the Robins win the Seven-side derby despite an own goal. That's City's third win in a row at the Cardiff City Stadium, Bristol City that is, in what was the 100th game between these two fierce rivals. What did you make of it, Billy? And 4 goals now for Andy Vyman this season. How important has his return been for the Robins?
Yeah, well, Bristol City, they've surprised me a little bit. I thought they'd struggle at the start of the season. They obviously had that slump at the end of the last campaign, so I thought that was going to carry on into the season and they'll build their way into the new campaign. But Andy Vyman's return has been excellent for them. He spent pretty much the whole of last season out, so getting him back in the side and scoring goals is pivotal. But it's not just the goals he scores that makes him such a great player. It's his ability to run in behind. He's got such clever attacking movement. And he works relentlessly as well, and that was displayed throughout the contest on Saturday. So I think there's definitely exciting times for Bristol City fans, and the return of Wyman is right up there with the best.
Sure. And Chris, do you share that sort of excitement in terms of how the Bristol City fan should be feeling after this one?
Yeah, definitely. You can't beat a win over your rival, can you? And as Billy was saying, Wyman's been so impressive since he came back from injury. He's always been a player I've sort of liked. Obviously, didn't really get his chance at Aston Villa, but he's sort of an industrious forward who is going to give you that work rate up top and get the team up the pitch, which I think really helps Bristol City with the way they're trying to play under Nigel Pearson. But yeah, no, it's a great result, and they sort of go into the international break where they can sort of reflect on how they've started the season and hopefully build from that after the players return from international duties. So yeah, it's all good.
And switching focus to the Bluebirds a bit, I think that's, eight, other than the own goal, that all 8 of their goals have been from headers. Do you think they came a little bit unstuck against the Robins? Do you think that perhaps they've been a bit one-dimensional and other managers might follow Pearson in bringing, bigger... He played 3 centre-backs in the back 4. Do you think other managers might see that as a sort of, a blueprint to beat Cardiff this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair to Cardiff, obviously their plan A, if you like, has worked really well with the goals they got from set pieces, and they're good at what they do. But you do need a plan B if you want to be up in that top 6 in that sort of conversation come the end of the season. So yeah, they are going to have teams that set up differently to combat their strengths. But it's up to Mick McCarthy and his coaching team to find a solution to that. Because if you don't have another solution, then you're going to get found out like they did this weekend. So yeah, no, they need a plan B.
Brilliant. Well, shifting then to Fulham versus Stoke. It was a comprehensive win for Fulham at Craven Cottage against Stoke City. Goals from Harry Wilson, Bobby Decordova-Reid, and one for Alexander Mitrovic helped the Cottagers stay top. A hugely impressive display at both ends of the pitch. I think they've scored the most goals in the Championship now, that they've conceded the fewest. Chris, it's early days, but are Fulham the favourites to win the title already? And do you think they've got the best attack in the league? Wilson, Carvalho, Decordova-Reid, Mitrovic?
Yeah, 100%. Mitrovic is easily the best striker in the division for me. He's proven in the Championship that he can score double figures, and I'm sure he'll do that again. He's well on his way to doing it already. Harry Wilson was a signing which was a statement to the entire division. The amount of money they splashed out on him. I mean, wow, you wouldn't bat an eyelid if that was a Premier League club, but the fact they're doing that in the second division is brilliant. And then obviously Marco Silva, attracting him to Craven Cottage, he sort of puts it all together and makes the team gel. And obviously Fabio Carvalho, what a talent. Could go the same way as Ryan Sessegnon did a few seasons back. Fulham will be hoping to keep hold of him for the long term, obviously. And Decordova-Reid, obviously done really well at Bristol City. Didn't do the best at Cardiff, but since he's sort of got his feet under the table at Fulham, he's really started to excel. And yeah, I would say their attack is hard to beat in terms of quality for sure.
Yeah, and shifting over to the Potters, but yeah, I mean, we don't want to be too reactionary. We shouldn't let a result like this against a hugely strong team like Fulham dampen what's been a fantastic start to the season. But do you think this sort of shows Stoke's level, perhaps rather top 6 rather than top 2?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it shows that there is sort of a glaring gap between the top 2, as we expect would be West Brom at the moment and Fulham. They've both been brilliant. And then sort of come your Stoke Cities, your Cardiff so far, your QPRs. And that was further emphasised Saturday, sorry. And I think it's not too much of a cause for concern. I think it perhaps wasn't a 3-0 game in the way that Stoke did create enough opportunities to score once. And I think that it's going to be a big learning curve for them, mostly because they've got such a young defensive line. They've got Ben Wilmot and they've got Leo Ostergaard, who are both 21. Harry Suter, who's playing the more senior role at the moment, he's only 23. So I think it's a big learning curve. And yes, I think it's more of a indication that the top six might be the best sort of prediction of where they'll come this year.
Sure. And Chris, have you been impressed by, I guess, the progress we've seen under Michael O'Neill over the past 3 seasons? It seems to be really clicking now. You think there's a lot of positivity for Stoke's fans despite the defeat?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're finally looking like a team that could compete for the playoff places, as Billy says. Obviously, it's been a few seasons since they came down from the Premier League, and they've sort of been through the ringer, so to speak. The Nathan Jones experiment didn't really work out, and now they've got a manager in who was, more international level with Northern Ireland, but he's really showing his pedigree in the Championship. And yeah, I think they've got a great chance. There's so much talent in that squad, and who knows, they might even make a few more additions before the deadline tomorrow.
Brilliant. Well, we'll shift over to sort of our final Championship game of today's show, and I'd say, one of the more eye-catching results. So we'll shift now to Huddersfield 4, Reading 0, goals from O'Brien, Pearson and Ward, but it was really Sorba Thomas that was the star of the show, a goal and 2 assists. Things seem to really have clicked now for Corbra and Billy. I think they're up in 4th with 10 points. How impressed were you by them on Saturday, and how impressed have you been by the Terriers this season?
Again, they were a team that I didn't fancy to do too well this season. I thought that, again, they had that sort of slump that Bristol City had in the way that their 2021 wasn't the best. And I didn't see too much changing, but I think the emergence of Thomas and 1 goal and 5 assists, as you say, is something that's pretty incredible at this stage of the season. And he just looks a constant threat every time he gets the ball. Something seems to happen, and his driving runs, his ability to pick out a pass that no one else really sees is just something that is really exciting for Huddersfield fans at the moment. And it's a scoreline that just no one really seemed to expect. I know Reading have been struggling defensively at the moment. I think they're now conceded 5 goals more than any other Championship team at the moment. So I think it was a result that highlighted Reading's problems at the moment, but also it emphasised how Corbran has sort of turned the ship.
Sure, and Chris, Sorba Thomas, he only signed from non-league Bournemouth back in January, and he's really finding his feet now. Are you sort of surprised at how quickly he seems to adapt to life in the Championship and is thriving now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such a big jump to go from the National League to the Championship, and to do it in the way that he has and made the impact that he has so quickly is so impressive. I was also going to touch upon what Billy was saying about his approach play and his ability to pick up pass. What impressed me a lot was his set-piece deliveries, his deliveries from free kicks. I think he took a few corners as well on the weekend. So, yeah, that's another sort of string to his bow that will only help Huddersfield moving forward. But, yeah, no, he's been brilliant and sort of following in the footsteps of Josh Koroma in a way, from coming from the lower leagues and thriving at the top level. So, clearly, Corbran's got to take a lot of credit for that as well.
Sure, and moving over to Reading then, Chris, they're teetering just above the bottom 3 now. But, Alan Halalovic, Baba Rahman, they've come in. There's talk of more signings before the window closes. How worried should Royals fans be right now?
Listen, it's still early days. They've had to sort of tough out the transfer window and all the problems they've had with the embargo and stuff like that. But if they can get people in like Drinkwater and Scott Dan, those names that have been mentioned alongside Baba Rahman and Alan Halilovic, they've got some really good options there to strengthen what is, still a pretty talented squad. Just because they haven't done the business that they would usually want to do doesn't mean that they're automatically a bad team after a few bad results. So it's early days. Wait to see how the new players bed in, and yeah, hopefully they can kick on after the international break.
Sure. Billy, the international break can be a good time for teams to sort of make a change because it would allow a sort of new coach a bit of time to get his ideas bedded with the squad. Could Velno Palkovic be sacked soon? Is that something that you could see happening in the international break, or do you think he's going to be given a bit more time?
I think he'll definitely be given a lot more time. They're in a position at the moment, as I said before, the window's still open, and I don't think you can be judged fully until you have your squad that you've assembled and sort of judged on your progress from then on. So I think he's still got a fair bit of time left, and he has proved to be an excellent manager at this level. And the embargo, I think, does not help at this point. And I think there's a lot more to come from Reading this season.
Brilliant. Well, that's all our sort of coverage of the Championship games. Now we're going to shift to League One. We start in League One with the top of the table clashes as Sunderland beat Wycombe 3-1. 2 goals from Ross Stewart, 1 from Elliot Embleton, and then a consolation goal for Wycombe. Billy, that's 3 wins from 3 at home now for Sunderland. Do you think the return of fans at the Stadium of Light is proving vital for Lee Johnson's side?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think it works both ways. Being the home team, being Sunderland at the Stadium of Light, and you're winning is a brilliant feeling, and something that is quite hard to stop. But at the same time, if you're a Wycombe player coming to the Stadium of Light and Sunderland are playing with confidence, then it's a very, very difficult place to come to. And I think we say it all the time about Sunderland. They do tend to start off quite well, and it's just about sustaining that this year. I think we've all said before how League One looks a lot more competitive this year, and Sunderland's perhaps been the favourites all the time, and now sort of Ipswich have come in and spent a lot, and also Sheffield Wednesday have recruited really well, and you just think, are they still considered favourites? But I think it's been a brilliant start, and they'll definitely be right up there come the end of the season.
Were you impressed by Sunderland on Saturday, Chris? Obviously, as Billy is saying, that there's always a lot of hype, and Lee Johnson often starts the season well. But just how impressive did you think the Black Cats were?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good result against a Wycombe side who obviously pretty tough nut to crack. I mean, they proved that in the Championship that they're good enough to sort of fight out with the so-called bigger clubs. Again, sort of echoing what Billy just said, Sunderland, you always expect them to be up there in League One, and obviously a lot of people think they're overdue to get promotion. But yeah, no, I think it was a great performance. Lee Johnson has obviously had the whole summer now to sort of get his methods across and bring in a few new signings to supplement what was an already multi-talented squad. So yeah, it's a good start, but still early days, and it'd be interesting to see if they stay in those top 2 places over the next few months.
Sure, and just shifting to Wycombe then, Billy, you know, they couldn't keep up with Sunderland on the weekend, but you know, where do you see them finishing this season? Do you think they're still really should be aiming for that sort of top 2 place?
I think it's definitely a possibility. I think they have started the season well, and the game against Sunderland might just be a little blip, but it wasn't an awful performance from the Chair boys. I think that they've recruited well, getting the likes of Sam Vokes in, Josh Gowan as well from Sunderland have been 2 quite eye-catching signings actually, and players that advanced that Wycombe team that ended the Championship season really well. So I think sort of the top 2 is definitely not out of reach, but I think they'll definitely be focusing on competing and getting in those all-important playoff positions.
Brilliant. And we'll shift to another team that will be wanting to compete for at least a top 6 place this season. Things haven't quite clicked for Paul Cook's Ipswich Town yet this season, and it was another frustrating result, you'd say, on the weekend as they drew 2-2 with AFC Wimbledon. Joe Pigott put them ahead from the spot and didn't celebrate against his former club, and then Wes Burns doubled their lead, but Hennigan and then a Redoni stoppage time equaliser meant that the points were shared. Chris, you're the editor of the AFC Wimbledon programme. You were there on Saturday. Was it a deserved draw for the Dons, or was it a bit of late luck?
To be honest, the first half was a bit of a non-event, to be honest, between the 2 sides. And then obviously Ipswich sort of got a double sort of sucker punch in a way. Poor penalty for us to give away. And then Wes Burns sort of hit us. as we were on the counter attack with a really good finish. But then we didn't take too long to strike back through Hennigan's header, and it sort of underlines the fact that Ipswich aren't very good at defending set pieces at the moment. It's clearly an area they need to suggest, because when it came to the stoppage time goal, it was literally almost a carbon copy. Hennigan came in at the back post, headed it low down, keeper palmed it straight to Rudoni, and he's basically tucked it in the line. So, yeah, very good point for us at the end. We weren't particularly our best in the first half. At the end of the day, we're a very young side. Things are only going to improve for us moving forwards. But yeah, no, before the game, we would have taken a point for sure.
Sure, and you know, Billy, Ipswich are down in the relegation zone right now, but it's clear with so much squad turnover in the summer, it was always going to take a bit of time for things to click for them. But you know, how long should we be giving Paul Cook before we can start to make a judgment on his Ipswich side, really?
Yeah, as you say, it's a completely new project, so it's difficult to judge him after just 5 games. I think the signings he's made are signings that they've needed. Last year, they scored 46 goals, which is something that shouldn't be associated with a team like Ipswich Town in League One. And he's gone a long way to improve that for this season. And whilst it was always going to be a long time for them to click into gear with 16 or 17 new signings, but I think once they do click into gear, it's going to be, well, they're going to be some forced to stop. And I can't see this sort of form carrying on for that much longer. I also think that a lot of credit has to go to AFC Wimbledon, how they've started this season. And it's not as if they go into these teams just to stop them play and set up shop like that. This new brand of attacking football is really exciting to see. And it's definitely exciting times for Chris and the rest of the AFC Wimbledon fan base.
Chris, I'm sure you'll share Billy's positivity about AFC Wimbledon, but do you share his, expectation that it's only a matter of time before Ipswich turn things around?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so much talent in that squad. I mean, some of the players they brought off the bench, like Sonny Aluko, obviously Macaulay Bonne wasn't even involved. There's so many talented players in there, and they will obviously click at some point. It's bound to happen. Also, Connor Chaplin's another one who I think will do really well for them. So yeah, they've got plenty of options, and you know, it seems like they're still eyeing up more signings. I know Selina's waiting in the wings to come back, so they're not even finished there. Yeah, it's going to take time, and I think it'd be interesting to see where they are when we get to 15 games in.
Brilliant. Well, that's everything of our coverage of sort of the League One's games this weekend. But now we're going to shift to League Two. There were some big results in League Two this weekend. Winless Port Vale, shocking Forest Green, and another win for Hartlepool. But our focus is on the clash between Leyton Orient and Bradford in East London. It was a 2-0 win for Orient, a fantastic tight angle finish from Soteriou, and then Harry Smith's second of the season, helping Kenny Jackett's side take all 3 points. Something of a statement win, really, for Orient, given how strongly Bradford has started the season. Chris, what did you make of it?
Yeah, no, I thought Orient done really well, and I think Kenny Jackett's obviously going to be key for them this season. I think it was a very eye-catching appointment for a team of that level. So this is a huge statement, being a team of Bradford's quality as well. Just looking back at the stats from the game, Bradford only had 2 shots on target. Obviously, with the attacking talents that they have in their team, that's a really good defensive effort from Orient to do that, and they went on to dominate the second half against the Bantams. So, yeah, no, really good. And to be honest, I think it's something that Orient can build from. But in my pre-season predictions, I had them as a team that I thought could be dark horses for the playoffs, and I hope that I'm proven right, because Kenny Jackett, he knows how to handle the lower leagues, and yeah, I think everything's set up for him to do a really good job there.
Sure, and would you say after a win like this against a sort of a team like Bradford, would you say you'd have them even higher than sort of a dark horse for the playoffs? You know, should we be talking about Orient now? It's early in the season, but a serious playoff and perhaps promotion contenders, Chris?
Yeah, there's no reason why not. For me, having watched a lot of League Two football over the years when Wimbledon were down there, you could literally be mid-table until the middle of next year, and then you could literally have a run of 7 or 8 games, and then you get into those automatic places, you get into those playoff places. It's not always a league where you have to stay on top for the duration of the whole season. So if they can keep up the current form that they're on now, then there's no reason why they can aim a bit higher. And I'm sure Jackett, being the manager he is, will be looking at those automatic spots for sure.
Brilliant. And you know, Billy, for Bradford, you know, it's been a blistering start to the season before this game. Can we just put that down to sort of a case of a bad day at the office, you know, move on and focus on, you know, Lincoln City in the cup in midweek?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a brilliant start for Bradford, and they've come up against a Leyton Orient side who have just basically beaten them on the day. That's all it was. And I think, talking about Leyton Orient now, I think that they've played Bradford, Salford and Exeter, all teams that most would expect to be up there. So they are a serious team for promotion contention. And to be sitting in the playoff positions already is something that's, a brilliant start for Kenny Jackett. And Bradford as well, I don't think they'll see this too negatively. They're still sort of at the top end of the division, so it's not going to be catastrophic for them. But at the same time, it's always disappointing to come away losing after putting such a strong start to the season.
Brilliant. Well, that wraps up our review of League Two and our review of all the sort of EFL games this weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Please don't forget to give Football League World TV a like and subscribe on YouTube. Give this video a retweet on Twitter and share it on Facebook, because that really will help us grow. Thanks from me, from Chris and Billy and everyone at Football League World TV.